Does it feel like that no matter what you try, there doesn't seem to be a solution to your current problem, challenge, or issue? Maybe you've got to that point where you're telling yourself, well, I've tried everything, can't find a solution. Maybe you've had other people tell you that there isn't a solution and you're just going to have to live with this. And that could even be doctors and other healthcare practitioners. By changing the lens at how you look at these problems, you invite space for solutions to find you. And I'm a firm believer that there is a solution out there to your problem, and sometimes they are right under your nose, like we're going to talk about today. And before we dive into the episode, I want to remind you, please subscribe, follow, depending on the platform, leave a review, and if you're on Apple, set it to automatic downloads. That helps me to get further up the list, get in front of more people. That's going to allow me to then create some bigger projects, which I have planned for this podcast, including some roundtable discussions with some high-profile people in this industry. I'm Ian Hawkins, and this is Sport is Life. The purpose of sport, as I see it, is to see your vision become a reality, find your voice, create strong connections, and learn to trust your body. To start this episode, I want to tell you a story that I heard a few years back, actually quite a few years back, from a mentor I had in 2013. And he was telling the story of an explorer that went to Peru trying to find these fabled ancient ruins, which we now know as Machu Picchu, and how there had been this rumor that there were these ruins, but no one from the Western world had ever set eyes on them or been there. And when this particular explorer, probably must have been around the 1900s, went there, and the details around the language, I can't remember. He must have had a translator with him or something. But when he asked about this place, the locals like, oh yeah, it's just here. Go up this road and there it is. So they'd always known it was there. But no one from the outside world had ever ventured that far into that part of the world and even asked the question. Now, most people who are familiar with that part of the world, or it's a fairly well-known area, might even be one of the ancient wonders of the world, is it? Not 100% sure. But sort of everyone knows it, right? Whereas back then, like, no idea. It's always been there, but no one knew it was there. And what the point of the story was at the time is that there are things right in front of you, really close to you, that you're not aware of at this point, but it doesn't mean they're not there. And the best example that happened, well, one more recently, as in this week, and one not long after I heard that story, was I was on a bit of a health crusade at the time, and I was trying to find as many different places I could to source cheap health food. So some of the things you don't always get in a regular supermarket, for example. The supermarkets have got better. I'm not sure of the quality of some of their stuff, but a lot of the things that may have been considered health food that you can only get at the health food store are more readily available, which is good. But at that time, that wasn't the case. And I was also looking at how could I buy bulk to keep the price down, because some of those products are decent price. Health food does cost more. That's the reality of it. Anyway, I started researching, and I found a shop that does bulk health food in the next suburb. Now, I've lived in and around this area for most of my life. Didn't know it was there, and yet it had been there for 20 years. Next suburb, and it sold all these items that I was looking for. More recently, my son has been having some health challenges. He's a fair bit of it to do with stress. He's been in his final year of school, but also some other things going on. And we've been looking for answers, and he's been given some solutions by his doctor, but some of them, they were still almost guesswork, and giving him some different ideas on how he can fix that up. But he wasn't really getting a change in his condition. So we started looking for different options. He'd been down the kinesiology route, and that had certainly helped, but he was still having some challenges. And so we're looking for a naturopath. So I started looking around in the local area, and some of them I was familiar with and some of them not. And I nearly signed up and paid for one, and then until I realized that they were local, but they were doing online consultations. And to me, it's like, what's the point in going local if they're going to be see them online? I could do an online with the best naturopath in the world somewhere. We wanted someone we go face to face. And then I find this guy, I kid you not, $500, 500 meters from my house on the next street, that does, not only is he into naturopath, but osteo, chiro, kinesiology. He's got the longest list of credentials I've ever seen in that health, not even alternative health, because he's a doctor in chiropractic and osteopathy. But a lot of those modalities that maybe aren't as well known or widely used. So he goes and has a session with this guy, and this guy is a wizard. Like he said, like, all of these different symptoms that he was having at the time, but also symptoms that he'd had, things like eczema and a few other bits and pieces, were all tied to this one thing around his gut health, which was tied to a fight or flight response. So gave him the solutions to be able to tidy that up. And 4 days later, he's already seeing vast improvements in that area. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because this is what happens when you get ultra clear on what you want. So initially, we were doing what a lot of parents would do, which is like, well, okay, one, let's take you and find where you might go. But two, downplaying what was going on and saying, well, you've got this going on and that going on. But the reality was he had a physical thing going on with his health that he knew what he was being told by the doctors wasn't right. There's something about instinctively or intuitively that he knew wasn't quite right. So instead, what we did was we sat down and said, well, let's look at this from a different perspective. Finally, I put my coach's hat on and said, well, what does good look like? And mapping out what he wanted that to look like in terms of his health. Instead of focusing on the pain, the problem, the challenges, let's focus on what you're working towards. And straight away, with that clarity, the subconscious mind goes and straight away looks for answers to what you're looking for. And then, as I've already described, start looking for something more specific, and the answer turns up right under your nose. Now, this guy's been practicing there for over 10 years. He's been practicing in this space for like 30 years. Some of his qualifications go back to the 70s. So that's like 50 years. And he's been living down the road for at least 10 years. I didn't ask him the details, but quite possibly longer. So when you are in a place where you are finding things are not working, and everyone you ask seems to not be able to find the solution for you, the key is to get clear on what the alternative looks like. What is it you want in your experience through a positive lens? And if you're not sure how to do that, look at what you are going through and then decide what is the opposite of that. So then once you know what the opposite of that is, what good looks like, then get really clear in as much detail as you can. So that might require you writing down the specifics of how you want things to be. So if you look at my son, his physical health, he wanted to have his body to be free from pain. He wanted it to be healthy. He wanted it to be strong. He wanted to be able to eat the things that he wanted to eat. He wanted to go out and enjoy himself. He wanted to be stress-free, to be worry-free, to just be enjoying the fact that he's finished school and he should be the best time of his life, and he wasn't able to fully enjoy it. So the more clear we got on that, solutions start showing up. So wherever you're at the moment, are you focusing on the problem, or are you focusing on what the good looks like once you've found the solution? Because you don't have to work it all out. You don't have to have all the answers, because the subconscious part of your brain will focus on the subjects that you give it. And the clearer you can get on the subject, the clearer the results will be. And as long as you're open to accepting new ways and new answers coming to you and new possibilities and new opportunities, and then acting on them when they come, then you will find solutions to things that you didn't know was even possible. From a physical perspective, people who are caught in repeated cycles of injuries and illness, it's usually because they're focused on worrying about if it's going to happen again. And all they're doing is programming their subconscious to find more ways for that to happen. That was me where I was 11, 12 years ago. It's funny, I've got some of the memories from a business trip, a business building program I did in Bali in 2013. It ended up being a whole lot more than that, and learned some incredible things on that trip. But that was one of the lessons I learned, is I had a lot of physical ailments at that point. I wasn't playing football. I wasn't running. In fact, I probably put on a bit of weight. But I was at that point where I was looking to improve my physical health and learning that it's because I had believed a lot of the diagnoses I was given. I'd believed that there was a limit to what I was capable of physically now because of my age and past injuries, and changing that to getting really clear on what I wanted. And since then, like all of those things I got told that I couldn't do, I was able to do, and now I'm still able to do. One of those things was playing football. I went back and did that. I'm choosing not to now because I don't need it in my life, but I can still run. I'm doing that regularly. And while I'm not running the same speeds as I was 10 years ago, I'm still going quick for considering, like I said, 11 years ago, I was told I shouldn't even be running on hard surfaces. So it's amazing what shows up in terms of solutions. And I'll share more of how those solutions found me in coming episodes, because I want to talk more about the impact that the body can receive from things like burnout, from suppressing emotions, from these patterns that keep repeating. And so that you can see, one, maybe how the impact that might be having on your body might be to your detriment in different areas of sport that you are still involved in, even if it's just feeling mobile when you are coaching or with your children, or if you're still playing or exercising or whatever it is. So today, change the lens through which you are looking at your current problem or issue or challenge where you are stuck. Instead of focusing down on what is going wrong, the problems, the symptoms, what does good look like? And put pen to paper, because if you can take the time to do that, so if you're listening to this in the car, traveling, wherever it is, at some point, set yourself an alarm to sit and write this down, because it is like magic. Now, I remember listening to the late great Jim Rohn, who I've referred to a lot because he used to be that person I would listen to religiously, teaching me a lot of these things. And he goes, I don't understand the magic of all of this, but there is a magic of writing down. And he used to say, I don't understand all this. Well, now I've got a deeper understanding of what that magic is. I've got a feeling he did know that, but that's just was his way of delivering. But if you listen to a guy like Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he talks about, the human atom and how it's vibrating, and we're all vibrating, and like vibrations end up being attracted to like vibrations, and there's all sorts of levels to it. And also how the subconscious brain works and how you can program it to find you solutions. So like with most things, there's a never-ending depth to particular subjects. But for you, is just coming back to that, like I said, the magic that Jim Rohn described. You create truth in your mind, and your mind will start finding you solutions, and you'll find solutions that you didn't even realize were right under your nose. You've taken the time to listen to this whole episode. Now it's time to take action. Commit to one thing you've learned today and make it happen. And to avoid any obstructions, join the Sport is Life movement by clicking on the link in the show notes.